Very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman and colleagues, I am going to be filling in for Senator Sanders today. And I assume it comes with 8.8 million Twitter followers and the possibility even of a cameo on Saturday Night Live. Now, we're going to be having an important debate about fixing the federal budget today. And this is a fiscal challenge that requires both sides to bring good ideas forward. Personally, I don't take a backseat to anybody with respect to working in this room to find bipartisan solutions on big issues. Chairman Enzi, as you know, I worked for many years with the fellow who sat in your chair, former Budget Chair Judd Gregg, on a comprehensive tax reform proposal that colleagues was fully paid for. I also worked in this room on a comprehensive health reform proposal, a universal coverage bill, with several Republican senators who are still on this committee. And the Congressional Budget Office said that too was a fully paid for proposal. So this whole effort to put together bipartisan legislation is both doable and a constructive one, but it's got to be based on the proposition that you're giving everybody a chance to get ahead, not just the folks at the top of the economic pyramid. Senator Sanders and I very much agree that's not what's on offer today. We are strongly opposed to the bill as currently written because of a key provision that would put budget reconciliation on steroids. Now, people outside this room don't know a whole lot about how reconciliation works. But certainly, I think more and more Americans are coming to see how it's been abused in recent years. The Trump tax laws handouts to corporations and billionaires, multiple attempts to repeal the Affordable Care Act. The Republican majority has used reconciliation as a fast track to shun bipartisanship, cut off debate on unpopular bills, and pretty much jam them through the Senate. Now there is a proposal, again as currently written, that would supercharge the process I described. Under this proposal, reconciliation would no longer be optional. You'd have mandatory budget cuts triggered by a system that the majority party could easily manipulate. There are two painful outcomes that, in my view, would be virtually inevitable under the current language. First, on health care, the current language would pave the way for Medicare to be slashed, for Medicaid to be block granted, and for the Affordable Care Act to be gutted into the grave. This isn't some wild hypothetical idea. It's what's on the record. Republicans have attempted to repeal the Affordable Care Act and slash and block grant Medicaid through reconciliation just 2 years ago. Dismantling Medicare has been a dream of the far right for decades. I don't think the committee ought to make that easier. It certainly shouldn't happen on a fast-track basis. But it's not just a threat to health care, it's a threat to jobs, and particularly the resilience of our economy as a whole. That's because the proposal would likely trigger automatic cuts at the absolute worst time, in the middle of recessions when unemployment is growing and federal revenues drop. That's when programs like unemployment insurance kick in. They're designed to send a jolt of stabilizing energy into the economy. It's also precisely when people count most on the safety net, on Medicare and Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act to get the health care they need, as well as other programs that comprise the safety net. If the Congress goes slashing federal programs that support vulnerable people right when the economy is headed south, that is pretty much a prescription, colleagues, for turning a recession into a depression. Now, to wrap this up, there is no debate about how flawed the budgetary system in Congress is. There are provisions in this bill that I would certainly support, particularly constructive, and I know he's been outspoken on this. Senator Whitehouse is here, is one that would end the debt limit panics that Congress inflicts on our economy. I do believe Congress isn't going to fix the broken budget system by doubling down on its most destructive, most partisan component, which is, as I'm going to characterize it, reconciliation on steroids. And I really want to emphasize, one point. And I just look at this in the context of, history working with senior citizens. I was director of the Great Panthers for many years, had a full head of hair and rugged good looks and all that. I don't want this to be a glide path for privatizing Medicare. So today I'm going to offer an amendment to strike the special reconciliation provision from the bill with my colleagues, Senator Murray, Senator Stabenow. I urge my colleagues to support the amendment, and without it, I cannot support this effort because I believe it's a flawed way to fix the budget. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.